We've got a review for you today of Booker's 2023 Batch 4. Hi friends, I'm Laura, this is Troy, we're Baker Drinks, and we've got the last Booker's batch from 2023. This is batch 4, the Storyteller Batch, and we are going to give a review of it today. We've got a new scoring system that we're going to use for all our reviews for 2024, and this will be our first bottle that we'll do it on.
So, I mean, you guys have seen a couple reviews from the channel already, and you may be asking, where was this new system for those? Well, truth be told, I reviewed those right after Christmas when Laura was in bed sick. It's why she wasn't in those videos. So those were actually 2023 late December reviews. 2024 and forward, we've got this new system that Laura just mentioned. We'll explain it a little bit in a minute. But this is the first review of the year that we're going to use that system on. So we're kind of excited to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, we have done a lot of reviews on this channel, and while I felt like they were pretty good, I just didn't think that they were giving quite the information I want them to give. I mean, we like whiskey, so we like a lot of maybe most of the bottles that we review.
Yeah, I feel like we try to find something good about every bottle. And, so our reviews are always quite positive, even though the bottle may not be that great.
Yeah, so this way, there's lots of channels that have lots of different systems. Some of them, it's just like an arbitrary number or object that certain number of objects that equal a rating system. And while that works for them, it didn't make sense to me because I need to know like what the difference is between one number to the next number. So this is the best system that we found, and we hope it works for you guys.
And on top of all that, hopefully this is going to clean up our end of the year Whiskey of the Year tournament. 2023 we did Advent, and we struggled to narrow that list down to 40 bottles because we like so much, but doing 40 bottle tournament,
way too much.
Based on, I think I liked that one 8 months ago when I drank it, so it's got to be in our tournament. It was just too much. There were some very uneven matchups. Maybe the best bottles won, maybe they didn't. It was just based on matchup for the day. This system that we're about to use is a scoring system. It takes 10 different categories and assigns up to 10 points for each category. We've watched a lot of other channels that use similar systems. We've kind of taken some of that. We've kind of made it our own. And again, this may not mean anything to you. We give like a random score out of 100 points to this bottle. But hopefully if you watch enough of our videos throughout the year and you drink some of the bottles yourself, you'll get to understand a little bit more about our palates, and then you could trust what we say is a good bottle and what isn't. It's all just so subjective. So we're just gonna do our best.
Yeah, so let's pour some whiskey.
Too much talking.
Too much talking.
As David from Whiskey Bank always says, not enough drinking.
Pretty good cork pop. Maybe that should have been in the scoring system. Just kidding.
I mean, it kind of is, right? It's in that overall value.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm just going to give the stats on this first. So this is batch 4 of 2023. It's the Storyteller Batch. And, if you've ever had a Booker's, they come in this really fancy box. They've got a great presentation. And then they give a little story and then notes from the master distiller. So I'm going to go over that. This is a 7-year-old, 2-month, and 29-day-old whiskey. It is 63.9% alcohol or 127.8 proof. So it's a hot bottle. I'm not really going to read the story because I don't know that it's that interesting.
She's not much of a storyteller.
I'm not much of a storyteller. And the whole point is that Booker Noe was a great storyteller. He could make anything into a good story, and that's why it's named that. It's just written in a lot more words that probably wouldn't be as interesting if I told it. So then they also give the breakdown of the bottle. So this has 26% that came from the 6th floor of warehouse C, 14% from the 6th floor of warehouse H, 25% from the 5th floor of warehouse G, and 35% from the 5th floor of warehouse 3. I don't know much about their warehouses or which one's better or not, but if you are a big Jim Beam fan, Booker's fan, maybe you understand that.
Whiskey nerd,
and that'll give you information if those are good warehouses, bad warehouses, or if it's just extra information for the people.
Yeah, so starting right into the scoring system, we look at the MSRP of the bottle. And from everything I've found on the internet, the MSRP for a Booker's currently is like $89.99. That's the average MSRP across the country, $90. We paid $110 for this, so right off the bat, the value seems a bit upside down. We overpaid, but that's retail in Washington State.
I've said it was plus tax on top of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not even counting the tax, but I say it all the time. You can't take a ride unless you buy a ticket. We wanted to try the Bookers. We hadn't seen one in a while. We hadn't seen one since batch 1 of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So we paid a little bit more to get the bottle, and we'll see how that plays out in the overall score. So the first thing with most scores on whiskeys is the nose, and we're looking for, basically the flavor and the depth. What does it smell like, and how intense of a smell is it?
Yeah. If we enjoy it, if it's complex, if there's a lot to it, all of that adds up to 2 different categories, flavor and depth. And
each of them are worth 10 points, so 20 points possible for the nose. And right off the bat, this smells like
peanuts.
Sweet peanuts.
It's very sweet. Caramel. There's like a little bit of char in the background that kind of gives like a savory note to me, but it's mostly peanuts and sweetness.
And I get that punch of ethanol. Like it kind of makes my nostrils burn if I take too big of an inhale. So
it is pretty high proof. That makes sense. Yeah. But not a lot of complexity to it. It's it is what it is.
Yep. So we scored this previously, and we wrote it down in our fancy new leather-bound scoring books, I guess we'll call them. I don't know. I gave the flavor a 7. I gave the depth a 7. And, again, that means absolutely nothing to you, but for us, a 7 means that this is just a really good whiskey.
We enjoy it a lot. We're not picking up anything we don't like, but it's also not like overwhelmingly good either. Mm-hmm. It's just, this is solid. We like it. And I gave it a 7 and a 7 as well. So we're the same on that.
Yep. So
let's take a sip.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to you guys. Okay, so now we're going to move into the front of the palate. So it'll be, it's hard to talk.
It kind of takes your breath away.
The flavor on the front end plus the feel or the experience as well.
Yeah, so like you first take that sip, the first couple things that you're tasting and experiencing are what we're talking about by the front end. So for me, it's very sweet and spicy. It's like caramel covered peanuts.
Yeah, they're definitely, Booker's is known for having a lot of peanuts in their flavor profile. It's supposed to be there, but it has an absolutely amazing mouthfeel. It instantly just, once it hits the tip of my tongue, it seems to coat my entire mouth. It's very enjoyable.
Yeah, and I was going to say what this lacks on the nose, because I was not expecting much from the nose. It smelled good, but it didn't smell great. The mouthfeel on this thing is exceptional. It's the ethanol punch. It's the spiciness from the mash bill. It's the viscosity and the oiliness.
Mhm.
This has a very, very good mouthfeel, and the flavor is pretty good too. I gave it a 7.5 on the flavor and an 8.5 on the feel.
And I took this scoring system a little bit differently than Troy because I didn't want to get involved in the less than a full number because that seemed too complicated. So I simplified it, and for me, I gave it a flavor of an 8 and a mouthfeel of a 9. I think it's got a spectacular mouthfeel, and this is a flavor that I really enjoy. So for me, this is a great front of the palate.
Mm-hmm. So the next category is the mid-palate. And this is that initial sip is starting to evolve in your mouth. The flavors are transitioning. The complexity is starting to shine through. The initial punch is starting to dissipate. For me, this is where the cinnamon starts to show up. The sugars, the brown sugar and the caramel that was on the front of the palate is evolving into like a full-blown toffee. And I don't know if it's a thing or not, but you've had the Mexican chocolate where it's kind of cinnamon and milk chocolate infused together, and it kind of gives you that spicy cinnamony chocolate.
It's got the cayenne also. Yeah.
Imagine like a cinnamon infused toffee with some pepper.
I mean, that sounds really good. But I like that description. I don't know if it's a thing. If it's not a thing, someone should make it and give us some.
Yes. So that's kind of the mid palate for me. I gave it a 7.5 on the flavor and an 8.5 on the complexity. I like what it's doing.
It didn't evolve as much for me, but it just could be that I didn't pick up that evolution as well. But again, I love the flavor. So I gave it an 8 on flavor and a 7 on complexity. And so then we move on to the finish. I mean, who doesn't love a good finish?
Mm-hmm.
So this again has 2 categories. We've got the flavor of the finish and the length of the finish.
For me, the toffee cinnamon thing continues. A little bit of clove shows up, and it's kind of a long peppery finish. I would say that the finish lasts close to a minute. I mean, I'm still, from the little sip that I took before you started talking, I'm still feeling that pepperiness on my tongue. I feel the warmth. The flavors are kind of lingering. They're starting to just now dissipate. It's a pretty long finish on this guy. And I don't know if that's just the great whiskey that it is, or if it's the crazy high proof, or a combination of the both. I like it either way.
I mean, I'm sure the proof adds a lot to it, but with a great mouthfeel, of course, it's coating in our mouth. It's going to stick around. The flavor also transitions a little bit for me. I get more of that char, like burnt sugar. It's delicious. I really enjoy it. But like, you know, the top of a creme brulee, not the creamy part underneath, but like that charred sugar on top. That's what I'm getting in the finish, and it's quite enjoyable. So on that, I gave it an 8 for flavor and an 8 for length.
And I was a 7.5 and 8.5. So the last category is kind of the overall score. We're going to take the balance and the value into consideration here. And what that means for me is the entire package. You know, how much we paid for it versus what the MSRP is, the packaging, the beautiful wooden box and the bottle with the fancy little ribbon on it and the full dip wax, the flavor, the finish, the nose, everything comes into this final score as one kind of thing, one big package, I guess, not one kind of thing. And what I wrote in my notes is what it lacks on the nose, it makes up for on flavor. It's got that great classic Booker's packaging. The elevated MSRP and the actual price that we paid kind of hurt this one. It's 7 years. It's limited availability. I got to take all of that into consideration. So balance, I gave it a 7. Value, I gave it a 6.
And I gave it the same score. So actually our total score, even though we have different numbers in different categories, we ended up with the same total score.
75.
75. So I feel like that's a solid first bottle. Obviously, we really enjoyed the flavor, but because of availability and pricing and that kind of stuff, it hurt it in the long run. But it tells me that I like Booker's. I had considered before buying this, like maybe I won't buy Booker's anymore because we don't drink it that often. But I think I just need to start drinking it more because I do enjoy the bottle. There's no reason for me not to take a sip.
Yeah, I mean, as hard as these were for us to find, like you said, we found batch 1 and batch 4 of 2023. In 2022, we only found batch 1. 2021, we found 3 of the 4 batches. So the availability is definitely getting a lot harder. And I got to take that into consideration as that SRP increases. But overall, it's a very, very good bottle. Like I said at the beginning, a score of 7s across the board, or a 70, that's a great bottle. That's one that I would expect to really enjoy no matter the occasion. It would be on the shelf. It would be something that I would reach for often. And this being a 75 is just slightly above that. There was nothing other than the complexity and the feel that really stood out above that. And I'm kind of looking, when I'm grading these things, I'm kind of looking for things that stand out in a good way or in a bad way. And those are the things that are going to affect that score and either move it up from the 7 to an 8, or maybe a 9 if it's exceptional, or, maybe a 10 at some point. I don't know.
Hopefully we get to a 10 at some point.
or maybe those things are going to drop it down. And like I said, I gave it a 6 on the value because, we paid over MSRP for it, and it's a limited availability product. So take that for what you will. This has been our scoring system, and it's very subjective, it's very arbitrary. It might not mean anything to you at this point, but if you watch enough of our reviews and you drink a lot of the same bottles, hopefully at some point it does start meaning something to you.
Yeah, so thank you for sitting through this long explanation of what we're going to do this year. The videos won't be this long every time. We won't need to explain everything, but we just wanted to make sure that you guys are understanding what we are doing. And we really appreciate you sticking through this. So like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers.